Good evening and welcome to the programme. The Metropolitan Police has begun a major new offensive against gangs. This morning they raided scores of homes across the capital and made more than 200 arrests, all part of what the Met Commissioner calls the total war on crime. But it's what's happening behind the scenes which is most significant. There are changes taking place which will affect how the force polices gang crime, and some have concerns about them. Our Home Affairs correspondent Guy Smith joins us with the details. Guy.
Yes, Riz, the Met admits it has a big problem. They've identified 250 criminally active gangs with almost 5,000 gang members. Of those, 70% are young black men. Meanwhile, more than half of victims of gang-related crime are also black. These figures show what's happening in some of the most vulnerable communities in London. Today, Scotland Yard officially presented its solution.
A show of tough police action early this morning. Raids were carried out across the capital and 213 suspects were arrested. This was part of a new attempt to disrupt gang-related crime. Scotland Yard today said gang members were responsible for more than a fifth of serious violence in London, half of all shootings and 14% of rape.
We know that they're responsible for all sorts of crimes.
Here in Trafalgar Square, the Met Commissioner, alongside his political master, announced his new initiative called the Trident Gang Crime Command. They're doubling the number of dedicated officers to 1,000.
The worst thing is to have just throw things in the air and get rid of the past. I'm not going to do that. So we're going to build on the success of Trident, but it's not a black problem. The people in the gangs are representative of the diversity of London. So what we're doing is targeting criminals. And I don't care what colour they are. It will be about targeting the gangs who are hurting people.
Most parts of London have gangs, but the Met is setting up task forces in more than half of the capital's 32 boroughs. They'll work alongside local councils, and they're warning more gang injunctions will be used. Last week, this teenager from Enfield was jailed, the first person in England and Wales to receive a prison sentence for repeatedly breaching his order. So what's the political reaction? Clearly, the current mayor wants it. He hired the new commissioner on the promise gangs would be one of his top priorities. And of course, there is an election around the corner.
Bernard Hogan-Howe was appointed by me and Theresa May on the understanding after August last year, when we saw those riots, it was absolutely vital that in spite of the falls in crime, we really needed to have a focused strategy on gangs from the Met. And that's what you're seeing now.
Two other main contenders for mayor were unsurprisingly less than enthusiastic.
If it's something the Commissioner wants to do and thinks it will be a serious reduction in gang activity, that's fine. If it's just responding to pressure from the Mayor that, it's an election coming, we have to be seen to be doing something, I mean, clearly it's a waste of time. And until after the election, I won't know which is the truth.
Gun crime is a very serious issue in London, and to dilute Operation Trident by getting the police to also look at gangs within the same squad, there is a potential of the police not concentrating on something which is very important.
And this new, more muscular approach to gangs does not come cheap. The Met says £60 million a year will be redirected to pay for the 1,000 dedicated officers. But everyone knows you can't arrest your way out of the problem. It's far more complex than that. It involves social workers, teachers, housing officers, and you also need to provide proper jobs. Not so easy these days. Riz.
Thanks very much, Guy. Well, in a moment, we'll talk to the officer in charge of this shift in strategy. First, Alex Bushell reports from communities worst affected by gang crime, where some believe the new approach still won't encourage people to work with the police.
The gang member, the kids they recruit from, and those left counting the cost. What will this new task force mean for those most affected by gang crime?
There isn't a word to say how great my loss is for Negus. I miss him every day, every minute, every moment.
Negus McLean was 15. He was chased by a local gang, set upon and stabbed to death here in Edmonton. Nearly a year on, no one has been convicted of his murder. For his mother, the reason is simple.
There's a lot of crime that goes on that people do know who's done it. They do know what's going on, but no one will talk. I would say that they need to come forward, they need to talk, they need to tell the police, it needs to stop.
So the nature of the problem is clear: how to rebuild trust with communities and in particular with youngsters whose lives have been blighted by gangs. It's only then that this new task force will have the evidence and the intelligence it needs to secure convictions. The question is now how to achieve it.
This is how, according to the Met. The police part funds this project in Edmonton. It pays for a recording studio, school visits and mentoring. The hope is this model could be rolled out across London. But speak to the youngsters who benefit and a sobering truth emerges. Meet Dujon. He knew Negus personally. And yet when I asked him if he was able to help the police, would he? This was his reply.
It's really hard to explain it, but obviously I got pride. And obviously I don't really like snitching, from where I am here, snitching is not good, it's not legit, it's not certified, it's not good to snitch.
To understand his answer is to understand the allure gangs have on many youngsters. Youngsters like Mr. Camon. He's a reformed character now, but he ran with a gang for 6 years here in Brixton.
Safety, protection. I wanted to kind of be able to walk from over there to over there without being harassed from my phone. And not only that, my mum's car was getting broken into a lot. And I thought, you know what, if I kind of get into a position in that realm there and like I got some foothold in that place, then I can say, you know what, you can't touch that, you can't touch him, you can't touch her.
That's why the Met aren't just relying on enforcement. By working with local councils, they're offering more support to the most vulnerable families. But for someone who knows the challenges well, the Met have gone about this the wrong way.
Trident came from the community in the first place, and it was a challenge to the police to do something to tackle the disproportionate effects of gun crime on the community. This is now about the police directing something at young people, and to that extent it hasn't necessarily done so by consulting and engaging with young people in the first place.
And that's what this new task force hopes to do. More muscular policing, yes, but also to build trust amongst those most affected by gang-related crime. Alex Bushell, BBC London News.
Here with us now is Assistant Commissioner Mark Rowley, the Met's lead officer for tackling gang crime. Thank you very much for coming in.
Good evening.
So we've heard this evening a more focused, organised way of tackling gang crime and gang culture, a top-down approach, if you like. Is it going to work with communities that we've heard there that have a lack of trust with the police, so much so that people wouldn't even come forward when they witnessed the murder of a 15-year-old?
We've got some very strong initiatives in our history in the Met. The most of all, obviously, Trident. Trident has been working on all gun crime, not just that in the black community, for several years now. Trident's success solving the vast majority of gun-related murders in gangs has been based upon trusting communities. We have people giving evidence now in cases who a decade ago we weren't able to get their trust and confidence to be able to do that. And it seemed to us that rather than building something separate to that Trident or getting rid of Trident, it was best to build on it and extend it into all gang-related crime because, as you've heard in your report, it's a big issue.
But the chair of the Trident Independent Advisory Panel that we just heard a moment ago concerned herself about this strategy that you're taking.
We've been talking to the Trident advisory group all the way through this, and there's different views amongst the group. Everyone, us and every one of those members, wants us to protect the quality of investigation and the good work that Trident's done today, and we tend to do that. We're building on it across all gang-related crime. Today, we've done over 170 warrants, we've made 213 arrests, we've seized firearms, major quantities of drugs. It's a good start to our tough approach to enforcement, but also we're doing the partnership work you've heard about in your report.
Now, she talked there about sort of engagement with communities. Do you think that this approach will break down that wall of silence that we've heard so much about over so many years?
Getting the confidence of people who have been drawn into gang-related issues to talk to the police and give evidence is very, very challenging. What we found, though, with Trident to date is it has been very successful on gun-related crime, and we want to extend that into knife crime and others.
OK. Assistant Commissioner Mark Rowland, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So what do you make of this and what you've heard from the Assistant Commissioner just now? Do you feel this change of tack will help get to grips with gang culture? Do email us or get in touch on Facebook or on Twitter. I will try and share some of your thoughts later on in the programme. Plenty more to come tonight.